You're watching Inside the Zone.
Justin Kinney, Glenn Marini, it's week 4. We're a third of the way through the regular season. I know we talk like that, in years past, but man, a third of the regular season is gone.
It's gone.
What have we learned so far? Because I feel like I'm maybe more in the dark than I was a month ago. I'm still not sure about what we got.
What we have learned is the majority of our preseason predictions were wrong, which is par for the course around here for us, So I think we look at and see a wide open SAC, I think we know the teams to beat in the NE8 and ACAC, and who knows in the NECC. Now.
Let's take a look at some of the best plays that we saw back in week 3, because these are some of the teams that I want to talk about before we get to the matchups. But Nathan Foster, 245 yards, 4 touchdowns against Norwell. You see it coming right into your living room. Some discrepancy on exactly how many yards he had
It was
Friday
plus
night.
200.
Plus 200 with the 4 touchdowns and an interception on defense. Leo looks every bit as good as we thought they were. Columbia City's pretty good, and East Noble has been a juggernaut in the NE8.
Absolutely have it, and all of them have high-profile dudes that have very much stuck out. But when you look at what Nathan Foster's been able to do, living up to what we expected in the preseason, he just continues to deliver on both offense and defense the first 3 weeks.
And when you take a look at the ACAC, we thought it'd be a shootout down in Bluffton. It was. Bluffton
Very
wins it by
was.
3, but it was good football. We love it.
Great football.
If you're Daddy Kunks, you have to love the scoring.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I even think Coach Mosier liked the scoring as well. This was a lot of fun. It very much was, the team that scores last and creates a key turnover is going to win this game. And I think it showed a lot about both teams, but Bluffton being able to pull that out. If they could take some of that offense when they play Adams Central here in a couple weeks, they got a shot.
I know we're going to talk a lot about Northrop here as we recap the game of the week in just a bit, but the one thing about Northrop right now is I genuinely think they can win the SAC, right? Maybe?
Do you?
I genuinely think that. I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying that I think it is a possibility.
They have the roster to win the SAC. What I'm concerned about, even after beating Northside, is just how many penalties that team took on Friday. And I think you still have to play all 4 of the heavyweights on the big division if you're Northrop. You're going to have to play much more disciplined football the second half of the season to really have a chance to win this conference. They're very much to me like Northside. Northside every year comes in with a lot of talent. You look, and on paper, this team has the most talent. You talked about that with Northrop too now. The coaching staff has done a tremendous job to take those strides forward. The next step forward for Northrop is to cut out the mental mistakes. And they had so many on Friday. The good thing was Northside had a lot too. So to compete in that big division, compete in the SAC, that's the next hurdle for Northrop.
All right, let's talk a little bit about our win of the week. And you talk about a win maybe people didn't see coming. I
did not.
I got to go down to Panito. We don't talk a lot about Southern Wells on this cast, but 21-14 over Jay County. This was a historic win for the program, and it's nice to see Blake Blaker get some traction for this program as they head forward.
It's amazing what a win can do for your psyche as a program. And Coach Blaker getting his first win with Southern Wells and being able to make some plays, a one-handed catch right there, right? Looked like DeAndre Hopkins.
That's how they do it in the Nido, right? Man. That's how they do it in the Nido.
But it's huge because this goes around the school, and with 1A schools like this, desperate for players to come out, even a win can get 5, 6, 10 extra kids out the next year, and that's how you start turning things around. So it was great to see from Southern Wells to get that win. Jay County on the other side, you kind of look and go, well, what's going on in Portland?
Yeah, that's a 4A program. But for Southern Wells, you take a look at that snapped a 21-game losing streak. It's their first ACAC win since 2019, if I recall correctly. So kudos to the Southern Wells Raiders. That is your win of the week. Now, as for the game of the week last Friday night, that was Northside. That was Northrop. A lot of hype surrounding this game. As we know, both teams with a lot of talent at the skill positions. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from what we saw at Spooler Stadium on Friday night. And this one, the second half was superior to the first half.
Sure was, yeah.
First half a little bit sloppy, but what did you see early on in this game? Because we see a handsome guy there on the sideline.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Let's play that again. Let's go back and just show that the rest of the time.
Yeah, in a hoodie, I think. Oh, yeah. Very incognito.
Yeah, no, This was great. You know, we at halftime, I talked to a couple Northside coaches. I said, hey, great job because no catches for Jerquaden Guilford. So I asked, okay, what is the strategy in the second half? They said, we're going to continue to bracket him with Malik Moore with that deep help at the safety position. But then in the second half, kudos to the Northrop coaching staff, putting Jerquaden Guilford more in a direct snap Wildcat situation, got the ball in his hands, and it really affected Northside because they could defend when David Callison was behind quarterback, but then you have Guilford who could take off. He was running some jet sweeps to D. Hogue and guys like that, giving off to Robert Rembert. It was very much more effective to get Quaden the ball right away with the direct snap, and that paid off with the win for Northrop. It was a great halftime adjustment. I don't think Northside really had a way to stop it because they were so ready for the traditional offense that came in the first half. So to me, that coaching decision at halftime was the difference.
Yeah, that reminds me of when Wayne occasionally used back in the day Craig Young. They put the best athlete on the field in a Wildcat quarterback position. Granted, he ran it most of the time, but Quay can hand it off. Quay,
Yes.
I mean, it is something to defend if you hadn't seen it before, especially if there was very, very little tape on something like that.
Absolutely, and there's so many different options, right? You put
Yeah.
D. Hogue in motion, you can just flip it to him, you can give it to Rembert, he can take off.
There's D.
And for Northrop too, it was to see their offensive line play the way they did, even in the first half with David Callison, is not allowing Callison to get hit too much. He wasn't running for his life, and he was able to go through his progressions a lot. And that's something we haven't seen in recent years for Northrop. They could have athletes, right? But if they couldn't give protection to Callison and allow him to make plays with those athletes, it didn't really matter. So just a very good win for Northrop. You know, first time 3-0 since 1983. And now they're going to get into the bulk of that SAC season schedule. They have the confidence. Can they continue to roll?
That was the thing I was going to say is I was at practice a couple of times last week, and this was a team, I mean, such a different vibe around this group of guys and around this team. Quentin Bowen has had this group since they were freshmen. That was his first class at Northrop, and to watch them grow and become what they've become, they are a very confident bunch, and they are now expecting to win close games, expecting to win SAC games on Friday.
And I think something maybe overlooked too is you look at the primary dudes, you look at David Callison, you look at Quay, you look at D. Hogue, Davion, they're all seniors, right? But there's a lot of underclassmen on this team, particularly up front on both sides. And you talk about Robert Rembert, who's just a sophomore. This isn't a senior-laden group that you look at and say, okay, after this, it's going to be a considerable step back. If this can be a significant step forward for the program and not just a one-year thing, then it's going to be huge. We've always looked at Northrop and said it's the biggest school by enrollment in Fort Wayne Community Schools. If the right situation, there's no excuse they don't have athletes and can't be a good 6A contender. And at least through 3 weeks, they look like that. But they head into the bulk of that SAC season schedule with Carroll and DeWenger and Homestead and Snyder, and they're going to have to play more disciplined football to beat those guys.
All right, Josh Ayen had a chance to chat with the Bruins after Friday's big win. Here's what they had to say.
Quay, man, a lot of emotions going through your mind right now. You guys are 3-0, first time for this program in over 4 decades. How's it feel?
Feels great, you know, just to step in the milestone, like I said, on Tuesday or Wednesday. So just getting closer to the goal, and that's state championship. So yes, sir.
When you take a look at this team, you guys were down at halftime, find a way to gut it out in the end. How did you guys find a way to stay composed, just knowing both sides were really chippy in this game?
Well, last year we was a first half team. This year we're both half team. We played first half and the second half when we came out fighting, and we knew we could do the same thing we did last game.
When they start shifting to that Wildcat, you start getting those direct snaps. What is that? Just how much do you embrace that when the coaches put that level of trust in you, knowing the game is on the line?
Well, you said it yourself. When I see they trust me, I put the trust in my team, I put the trust in myself, and I do what I'm supposed to do, and I compete, and I do my job.
How do you build off this, knowing Homestead's on deck next week, and find a way to keep things rolling?
This is a milestone, you know. Again, I focus on practice on Monday.
No, he does not.
You know, we got practice Monday, so that's our focus. We focus day by day, and then we get to Friday. So yes, sir.
What were some of the things that you guys knew that you would need to do out here today against Northside to give yourselves the best chance to win? Because they have a lot of star power on the other side as well.
Definitely have star power. Just stop Malik as much as we can and just be competitive. Just compete. We know we got the playmakers and give our playmakers the ball. D. Hogue, our running backs, our quarterbacks, give everybody the ball, myself, and just compete.
And I know that you have a lot of goals for the end of this year. I know that this is just the very beginning, but what is it like to get a win like this, see your fans, see your teammates get to celebrate a win like this?
I mean, it feels great. I'm gonna go celebrate with the guys, and then it's right back to it on Monday. You know, we have hard practices, so that's what really hard to get over and to just accomplish. This is a big accomplishment. I'm studying a lot. I'm very proud of the guys and the team. Time to go celebrate and just take it day by day again.
Cornelius, man, first time that Northrop has started season 3-0 in over 4 decades.
Sir.
For you guys to get a win like this, how big was tonight?
It's a big win, man. We came in this game feeling confident, just knowing our defense. We just had to do what we do, keep our composure, and come out with a win. And that's what we did.
You know, there was a lot of hype around this Northside offense. They were able to put up some points on the board the first 2 weeks. How much did you challenge yourselves on defense to try and make sure you limited Northside as much as you could?
I mean, all game, we got a great defense. We got a great secondary. Start with the D-line in the trenches. We just had to set the tone all game and came out with the win.
You guys are trailing at halftime, but again, you find a way to gut it out in the second half. What does that say about this team, the fact that you were able to stay composed and find a way to win another game?
Just our grit, just our grit for real. Like, just keep stand down until we come up. That's all.
You guys are up by 3. You get that huge sack to push back Northside. Eventually they can't convert. Just what'd you see on that play to really put Northside on their heels right there?
I just seen, like, we got the sack, came out, got the 4 and out, came back on offense, is blocking on offense, ran it down the field to get a touchdown. Go Bruins.
Yes, sir. How do you build on this next week, knowing you got a great Homestead team and a chance to go 4-0 now?
Just keep staying disciplined and just doing us.
I love it, man. Anything else you want to add?
No, sir. Go Bruins.
Some technical issues with Quinton Bowen, but I can tell you technically he's done a pretty good job.
Yes, he has. I'm sure it was very insightful stuff from Coach Bowen, but he'll try to keep it going this week. As they mentioned, Josh asking Quay there, you got Homestead this week. How do you keep it going?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that game in just a minute, but I want to talk about what is going to be our Highlight Zone game of the week on Friday. It's another SAC showdown. Carroll at Bishop Dwenger. How do you see this one playing out? Because obviously Carroll's coming off a big win over Concordia. They've kind of played really difficult teams.
Right, I know.
And then a team that they didn't have as much difficulty with. There's not been a lot in the middle there. And then Bishop Dwenger, we've kind of seen them play a couple different ways on some teams that with Roncalli and DeSales, like we don't really know what those teams are from a week-to-week basis because we don't see them all that often. But what are you seeing from these two teams that make you think, okay, this is going to be a good ball game, and what is going to decide a game like this on Friday?
Well, you said to start this this show, what do we know in week 3? These are two teams that you look at as like we really don't know because, as you mentioned, Carroll's played 2 really good 6A teams, and then it played an outmatched Concordia team. And meanwhile, Bishop Dwenger has played 2 out-of-area teams that we know are pretty decent, and then played an overmatched Wayne team last week. So now you could say this is the meat of the schedule for both because this is a big game for both, and we know kind of where they're at. But who is the better of the two is really difficult. We're going to find out on Friday because we don't have too many games where these two teams have played teams where we're like, oh, okay, we know where they're at.
The one thing that's interesting to me is I was looking at the stats this weekend, and you saw, Carroll's obviously thrown the ball pretty well with Gabe Freisinger this season. Jaden Van Pelt is Jaden Van Pelt, but they only have 65 net rushing yards through 3 games. If you can kind of peel your ears back and go after the quarterback with the Bishop Dwenger Saints defense, their defensive line, and maybe some of the linebacking core, could that be an issue if you're Carroll, knowing that right now they're fairly one-dimensional? Not saying they can't run the football. They just haven't thus far in the season.
I think that's the big challenge, I think, for Bishop Dwenger is the secondary this week, is being able to keep up with Jaden Van Pelt and Harry Shaley and Mason Bauman and this cadre of dudes that can make plays for Carroll downfield. Yes, you can limit the run game, but can you match up downfield with some of them dudes? And Gabe Freisinger has looked immensely more confident in weeks 2 and 3 than he did week 1. And now he has his first big game against a big SAC foe at home.
If you're Bishop Dwenger, again, a lot of the talk this offseason was making sure, similar to Northrop, with David Callison and his health, Henry Jordan in his health. Can he be there? Can he elevate the offense? What have you seen offensively from Bishop Dwenger? Obviously, it was kind of a get-right game against Wayne with a 46-0 win, but what are they doing well offensively that they can carry over into playing against what looks like a pretty darn good 6A defense?
Yeah, it's balance. I mean, offensive balance with Bishop Dwenger. Colin Campbell's able to run for over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns on Friday night, the sophomore. I mentioned Henry Jordan being able to get the ball out downfield to Beckham Russell and Thomas Dannies and guys like that. So it feels like a Bishop Dwenger offense that can move the ball, both running and passing, and that balance, right? In previous couple of years, we looked at, well, if you can shut down Bishop Dwenger on the ground, how are they going to move the football? So for me, it looks like Bishop Dwenger is a more balanced offense. They've really figured things out, particularly over the last 2 weeks after maybe going to Roncalli and saying, okay, well, we need to do this, that, and the other, and really figure things out. And now they get into the bread of their SAC schedule. And hopefully for them, that offense has found its groove.
All right, speaking of offenses finding their groove, let's move on to the Northrop at Homestead game. With Homestead, they scored 30 last week against Southside, but again, Michael White out. He was in a sling on the sidelines. Logan Frieden taking over. Once he got settled, did a pretty darn good job. Yeah. How do you see this one playing out? Because these are, with Homestead, they played Southside, but again, sort of like we were talking about with Carroll and Dwenger, they've played teams that we don't really see on a given Friday night here in Northeast Indiana. When you take a look at Noblesville and Westfield in weeks 1 and 2 for Homestead.
When we entered the season, we said, okay, name the most valuable players around the area, and in your top 5, if not your top 3, Michael White was in there.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah,
and for good reason. But for what Logan Frieden's been able to do the last 2 weeks, Homestead has scored 6 touchdowns this year. Logan Frieden is responsible for all 6. 4 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown runs.
Is that good?
That's pretty decent.
Okay.
So not saying Logan Frieden is Michael White or has the same skill set right now as Michael White, but the junior has really come in and been that presence that this team desperately needed, because we thought, okay, if Michael White goes down, what the heck are they going to do? They've been able to get that win on the road at Noblesville, back it up with a win against Southside. But make no mistake, this is a tremendous challenge for Homestead against Northrop on Friday.
And you could bet Tim Messel's looking at the way they used Jaquaden Guilford last week in trying to figure out some things for the Guilford Wildcat package.
Absolutely. It really caught Northside, I think, off guard a little bit in the second half, and now DC Messel has some film to study.
All right, so that one should be a good one. When you take a look at Northrop, one of the keys to this season, we knew about Quay, we know about Maddox Weil, we knew about Callison, but on the defensive side, some of the guys we hadn't heard of before.
Sure.
Specifically a man named Iffy. I got a chance to chat with this young man who's got all the talent in the world and just starting to put it together after picking up football just 4 months ago. Here's our story with Iffy Emadobi.
Johnson. Oh, come on. You got to know his name, folks.
So my first name is Ifeanyi, I-F-E-A-N-Y-I. Emadobi, E-M-E-D-O-B-I.
If you didn't know his name before, you better know it now.
Got in right away. Beautiful tackle.
6'4", 220-pound Ifeanyi Emadobi, or Iffy for short, with 7 tackles for loss in just his second ever high school football game.
Defense, I really like the defense. I'm new to football. I just started like 4 months ago, so I don't really know what's happening. I'm thinking secondary, but I know our defensive line is pretty good.
He's just a baby deer out here wandering around, and he gets to the quarterback and he gets to the ball carrier. Just his ability to get to the backfield, and his willing to learn, pick up things that's new to him.
My whole life, people have been telling me to play sports, and I never really wanted to. I always told them no. I just wanted to give it a shot,
While he's new to football, he's also new to Northrop. Iffy moved from Georgia to Fort Wayne back in January. At Spooler Stadium, he's also carrying on a family legacy. His dad, Sam, once starred for the Bruins, going on to play D1 football at Eastern Michigan.
My dad was All-State. He's on the wall up there. Yeah, in my school, and I'm hoping to one day be up there with him. I've been training the whole entire summer. I've been going to camps. I've been going to this place called Traction. You can really see a difference from when I first started.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Family. Having fun?
Yeah, I'm having fun.
All right, man. If he's having fun, I'm not so much sure the offensive line that he faces is having fun, but man, he is like a shot out of a cannon on the defensive line.
Moves up back up here from Georgia and just dominating.
Yeah, physically, very much like myself. It was like
just
looking in the mirror, just lithe and ripped and athletic as all get out and tall. Talking about, let's move on. Talking about Columbia City at Huntington North this week. Obviously, we know what Huntington North did last year. Sledding has been a bit tougher this year, and Columbia City scored 61 points last week against Belmont. They've looked really good, but again, you know, they take on Plymouth. They take on some teams that we haven't seen generally. So what do you see as being key in this ball game for Columbia City? We know their schedule's backloaded.
Sure. To
keep things rolling if you're Brett Fox and company.
Well, you feel really good if you're Columbia City because you got that week 1 win in Northwood, which really helped elevate the first half of the schedule. But now you're kind of in those doldrums of, all right, we got to plug through this. We're going to have East Noble and Leo back-to-back weeks once we get it later into the season. And for Huntington North, it's just been bad luck, you know, and letting games get away the first couple weeks and then just being completely dominated last week against East Noble. There's no shame in that because so far everybody has been dominated by East Noble.
True.
So, but for Columbia City, I think it's just still keep things simple, which it sounds easy, but just being able to run the football with a cadre of guys and leaning on with the pass game when they have to, and then very much limiting Huntington North. They've struggled with injuries, particularly at that quarterback position. If they can get James Linker the ball in positions to succeed, they have a shot to keep up in this game. And Columbia City's just been able to put a lot of points up on the board. Huntington North's going to have to play really well defensively.
I'm going to save this show for the Emmys because we got a double cadre.
Oh, yeah?
You said cadre twice so far
Did
on the show. Yeah,
I got to mix it up.
This is historic. Normally we get one every other week, but this with the expanded format of a full half hour, like we get a double cadre.
Get double cadre.
Let's talk about the ACAC. Obviously, it was a big game last week in Bluffton at Fred Park Field.
Yeah.
It was the shootout that we thought it was going to be. 44-41. Bluffton wins it at home, and that sets up a big game this week for South Adams. It's an elimination game essentially for them. You're taking a look at South Adams battling a Heritage team that maybe has flown a little bit under the radar, but I know they have some names that we've heard of and some names that we haven't heard of that you really like.
Yeah, very much so. When you look at dudes that they had to replace, you felt like last year, are they really going to be able to keep it up in Coach Jeremy Hollinger's second season because of who they lost? And yeah, look what they bring back and new guys. We talked about new guys with Iffy, right? Kraus, the running back, right?
Yeah,
3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
New to football this year, first year as a senior, comes out and says, oh, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. Only runs for 3 touchdowns. Lucas Weber has been tremendous as well for Heritage. So similar to what we saw last week in Bluffton, I mean, could this be a game that gets into the 30s and 40s offensively? Because I think Heritage is really, particularly that week 2 win over Delta team that beat them by 40 in the sectional last year. And you felt like, okay, well, they lost a lot. Now they got to play Delta, and they win that game in overtime really impressively, and then dominate Woodland in week 3. So this is going to be a fun game at Byrne.
Yeah, the thing about Heritage was in that game against Delta, they broke like an 80-yard touchdown, and that was it for Delta.
Right,
like the defense shut down Delta. And being from Muncie, when I think of Delta, I think of like the old school Grant Zagunda offense where they threw it around and tried to beat you 50-40, like a greatest show on turf thing. And I'm like, man, they held Delta to 0 points outside of a missed tackle that went for 80 yards.
Yeah.
So the defense, we talk a lot about the offense for Heritage, but the defense is doing a pretty good job as well. Meanwhile, South Adams just continues to be South Adams, and I love the way their offense runs. And if you're a 1A player, like you have to love playing in this offense, right?
You want to go to Byrne and play football, right?
Any level, but like if you're a 1A player, you're playing probably a decent amount of defense if you're a starter on the offense. So it's got to be fun to be running around there and scoring points on the other side of the ball.
And that's the big challenge with this game is Heritage is going to play the most explosive offense it has so far. So getting pressure on Titus Lehman, being able to defend Derek McKean downfield, matching up with West Somerset in the flat and in the medium route game. And are you going to be able to take all those things away? And what Brent Kunkel said last week post-game is Grant Mosher is just so good at finding mismatches and switching up those when, he'll do A, you'll do A, he'll switch to B, you'll switch to B, he'll go to C. He just keeps you on your toes. So I think that's the big challenge for Heritage going into this game is being able to defend South Adams' offense.
Eastside at Busco, it's decided the NECC small division for 13 centuries now.
It has.
And I know Eastside is like ready for payback because last year Busco won 24-12 and went on to win the small division championship, taking that out of Eastside's hands where it had been for the previous few years. So what do you see as being the key in this one? What does Busco have to do to slow down an Eastside team that earned a really nice win at home 27-24 last week against West Noble?
You got to figure out a way to slow down Job Richmond at this point. I mean, Job has just been phenomenal for Eastside, quarterback, running it as well. And I think for Eastside, you have to move past that win last week, which was huge in a lot of ways because everybody looked at West Noble as maybe being that team to beat this year in the NECC, like Garrett was last year. And you were able to do it. And now the division title is effectively on the line. You have to quickly move past that game. So for Eastside, just be focused. They are the better team, but Chair Busco wants to make it ugly, make it low scoring, and try to squeak one out.
You could say that Job Richmond is doing his Job so far this season. All right.
Or maybe it's Laban Davis.
Oh my God! We got names. We got names at Eastside. One of the guys that has obviously done a great job coaching has been Alex Stewart. I know I'm pivoting, changing directions right now, but when you talk about East Noble, man, we thought, oh, okay, you go to state. Generally, it's a lot of seniors. Dylan Crail was the head of that monster. So with his graduation, who's going to lead? How are they going to progress? And all he's done is win. And how have they done it? We try to show you this week as we take a look behind the scenes in our Highlight Zone 2-minute drill with Alex Stewart and the East Noble Knights.
Defense sets the tone. They're only letting us bring 4 captains out, so one of them doesn't get to go. Shire, you got your shirt in just so you know. Let's go, next ball, next ball, next ball, let's go.
Dalton's the one that has the most shield wins.
Oh, okay.
Just out there, just working away, and they came over, we talked for a while. It felt like a good omen.
Good, good deal. Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys.
Good game.
Yep, you too. Thank you. We practiced bare front because that's different than anything we've seen all summer. So now we've seen it, so we're prepared for it. Let's go, hustle up! Hustle up! Last night at the dinner, Coach Ab said this is the only team in Fort Wayne that we haven't beat. It's the only team from Fort Wayne that we haven't beat yet as a program. All right? And, you know, when I moved up here last year, I heard nothing but all this amazing stuff about Fort Wayne. In Fort Wayne, they got the best facilities. In Fort Wayne, they got the best athletes. In Fort Wayne, they got the best coaches. In Fort Wayne, they got the best teams. Well, guess what? We ain't in Fort Wayne. We're in Kendallville. All right? In Kendallville, Friday nights are special. All right? In Kendallville, people line up down to the damn YMCA to come watch the Knights play. In Kendallville, kids grow up dreaming about wearing the blue and gold. In Kendallville, at 7 o'clock, the Knights put on their helmets and they go to war. In Kendallville, we don't back down. In Kendallville, we play 4 quarters of punch you in the mouth football. Fort Wayne Spider, welcome to Kendallville.
Gives you a little goosebumps there to go behind the scenes. Yeah, welcome to Kendallville. They beat, obviously, Snyder. That was from week 2. I got to mic up Kyle Lindsay last Friday night, so we'll see that next week.
Yeah.
And then planning to mic up Bart Curtis from Warsaw this week.
Doesn't get better than Bart.
I am super stoked to have a mic on Bart Curtis leading up to the 40th annual W Trophy game this coming Friday night.
Gonna be fun.
A final quick question. What are you most looking forward to here in week 4? What are you looking for?
Well, in the SIC, we got another big matchup with Carroll and Bishop DeWenger. So for me, it's really kind of figuring out where people slot into that big division. Carroll DeWenger, Homestead Northrop. Let's see where everybody shakes out here after week 4.
And how do you feel this one is going to play out? Because I'm putting you on the spot because if you've made it this far in the show, you want to know.
You want to know?
You want to know.
Until somebody knocks off Carroll atop that perch, I'm going with the Chargers.
All right. The Chargers, it'll be your Highlight Zone game of the week. We'll have you covered Friday night. But for more analysis and breakdown, he's Justin Kinney, I'm Glenn Marini, and we'll see you Monday on Inside the Zone on Wayne.com.
You're watching Inside the Zone.